Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 5 years we've been asking the entrepreneurs along the way. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Today, Franchise Interviews is hosting our very first Automotive Symposium. And after today's show, you'll know more about the automotive industry than you ever imagined. Today, you'll hear from Franchise Interviews with automotive franchises like Aamco, Maaco, 1-800-Radiator, Express Oil, and Moran Industries. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Franchise Interviews. For over 4 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Check out our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 5 years we've been asking the entrepreneurs along one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews. And as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. Today, Franchise Interviews is hosting our very first Automotive Symposium. And after today's show, you'll know more about the automotive industry than you've ever imagined. Today, you'll hear Franchise Interviews with automotive franchises like Aamco, Maaco, 1-800-Radiator, Express Oil, and Moran Industries. And why don't we go right into our interview with the Aamco franchise opportunity. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the entrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And as we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today because we're meeting with Tony Padullo, Vice President of Franchise Sales and Development for the Aamco franchise opportunity. And And Aamco is the world's largest chain transmission specialist and one of the leaders in total car repair services. The Aamco brand has approximately 900 automotive centers throughout the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. Hey, Tony, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me on the show.
Tony. Great. Thanks for coming on. Tony, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson. I think you might even know Don.
Yeah, I know,
Hi,
Tony.
Don.
How you doing? It's good to have you on. We've been looking forward last few weeks have you on, Tony, here about Aamco.
Well, I'm excited to be on, and I do appreciate the opportunity, so thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome, Tony. Tony, I would like to ask our guest where you're calling from this morning.
I'm in Horsham, Pennsylvania, which is just northeast of Philadelphia.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm in Williams Township, Pennsylvania, which is, I guess, about 50 miles north of you guys, so I know Horsham well, so that's fantastic.
We're almost neighbors.
Absolutely, yeah. So I know what the weather is there today.
It's a little bit more muggy today.
Yes, yeah. Tony, I was reading your resume. I mean, you've been in franchising a long time. Did you want to tell our guests a little bit about what you were doing before joining Aamco?
Sure. Well, as you said, I've been in the franchise and real estate world for my entire career, for over 30 years. The bulk of that experience lies with Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin-Robbins. I worked with them for 22 years. 10 of those 22 years, I headed up the international development group, where I was responsible for developing about 30 new countries around the world for both Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin-Robbins, and then came back to our domestic team and headed our domestic development, again, for the two brands. When I left Dunkin' in 2003, moved on to Arco Gas, AM/PM convenience stores out on the West Coast, and was there to revitalize their franchise development program and rebuild the franchising concepts that they had. Worked there a couple of years, and then by coincidence ended up back on the East Coast in the Boston area, where I had been with Dunkin' Donuts, and worked as senior VP of franchise development for a regional company, Papagino's Inc., which is the holding company for both Papagino Pizzas, the largest pizza chain in New England, as well as D'Angelo's Grilled Sandwiches. And this year, in March of this year, I've been lucky enough to start this incredible journey with Aamco Transmissions.
I think that's maybe where, Tony, you and I first started speaking when you were at Papagino's. I think we've met at a trade show or two also. So great. I'm glad you're found a home now you're happy with, a long-time organization, very well known nationally. So tell us about the history of Aamco.
The company
Yeah, okay.
Oh, go ahead, Don. Yeah, I was good.
I was just going to say, Tony, maybe tell us about how Aamco started and how it became such a leader.
Sure. The company started right here in the Philadelphia market back in 1962. It was founded by Anthony A. Martino, which is where the Aamco name comes from. So it was really the AAM company. And he, along with partners, had a transmission shop, and by coincidence met a fellow called Robert Morgan, who had been in the franchising business, and together they formed the franchise business in 1963. So they actually took the first Aamco center and developed a franchise business out of it. And over the last 50 years, in fact, we're almost at 50 years, we're getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2013, have built a very strong, a very robust franchise system, which is almost 900 units. The interesting part, guys, is that the original Aamco store center, not only is it still in business, but it's still in business with the original operator who used to work with Anthony Martino.
Wow. That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about our business and the concept and how people, once they come into the business, stay with us. We have many multi-generational owners in the business. So it's something that we're very, very proud of. Now,
most franchises, Tony, a business opens, they open up a few units, they start to become successful, and then maybe they consider franchising. But right from the start, I guess Tony and Aamco and his associate just wanted to start franchising right from the start. That was pretty interesting and pretty innovative probably back then, right?
It was extremely innovative because as you know, the actual franchising business started probably in the late 50s. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts was one of the forerunners of the franchise concept. McDonald's, of course. So at that point in 62, you're still, or 63, you're still in the early stages of franchising, and to take, just one store or one center and say, you know what, we have one, let's build this brand, let's build it out. And I'm sure nobody at that point, which is how most franchises start, they start locally, they become regional, next thing you know, they're national, and then, they're international as well. So it's just amazing how a good concept can grow.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people say he was an amazing man, too, Tony, Mr. Martino. I've had conversations with other people before. I've never actually met him or spoken to him, but, they've said nothing but, great things about him, kind of like he was a legend in franchising.
That's what I understand. Unfortunately, I've never had the pleasure of meeting him myself. I know that he did pass away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But certainly, whenever people speak of him, it's always very well, and certainly, an innovator in the franchising business.
Absolutely.
So what's so unique about Aamco? People listening, thinking about buying a franchise. Obviously it's a franchise system, but how would you describe the franchise to a potential investor, Tony?
Well, the way that we look at our concept, if you're looking at franchising, I think the first thing you've got to do as a potential franchisee is look first at what are you looking for as a franchisee. What things are important to you? Is it quality of life? Is it a strong return on investment? Is it a vehicle that you're looking for to serve as a retirement vehicle? Are you looking to build a business for the family? In our case, we think we meet all of those. In fact, we know we meet all of those. But I think the one area which really differentiates us from many, many other franchisees is the area around the quality of life. And what I mean by that is, unlike a lot of retail businesses, our business is a 5.5-day week. It's Monday to Friday, typically 8 o'clock till 6 or 8 o'clock till 5. And Saturdays, typically half days from 8 until 12, which means that the franchisee at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock goes home, gets to spend time with his family, has most of his weekends free. And that really is a significant difference between us and many other retail concepts that you're looking at. Now, obviously, that's only one part of it, so assuming that that's an important factor to you, then you have to look at, the other traditional things that you would look at. You'd look at, the value of a strong franchisor, how stable is the system, has the system been growing, and can demonstrate to you that each year there is both organic growth from same-store sales as well as unit growth, because the two go hand in hand and really reinforce the strength of the brand. What kind of infrastructure does the company have? What kind of support can I expect as an incoming franchisee? Training. Do I need to know the business? Will you train me? Those are all areas that are important that we would be discussing along our process with our prospective franchisees.
We're speaking with Tony Padula, Vice President of Franchise Sales and Development for Aamco. How has technology played a role with Aamco, Tony? It's been a lot of, things are a lot different today than it was, 20, 30 years ago. So how has technology played a role with Aamco?
Well, I think to say that it would be huge would probably be an understatement. As you know, Marty, when you're looking at the changes that have been happening in automotive servicing, the electronic systems, they've been huge. Repairing a car today compared to 20 years ago, or even as little as 10 years ago, is totally different. And so for us, it's been a huge area of concentration and focus. We have a dedicated technical staff, and the head of that staff is one of only 50 master ASA designated technicians in the world. So we're very, very proud of our workload. We have a full, for our franchisees, for example, we have a full library available to them that they just download or go online. If they're doing a repair, whether it's a transmission job or whether they're doing general repair, they can either call in to our 800 number where we have technical services available for them all day, or they can go online and we actually walk them through the process, help them diagnose the issues. And the fact that technology has grown so quickly is really a plus for us, because one of the biggest benefits for Aamco, and why we've stayed at the forefront of other similar franchisors, is that there truly is, in the transmission business, there truly is a barrier to entry. And by that I mean it's such a complicated business that for somebody to come in and start from scratch, it's very difficult. And that's why you see that we're the only national transmission company in the U.S. Nobody else has been able to do that. You know, they're able to do other total car care, but the technology around transmission and related work is so highly developed that it's very difficult for somebody new to come into the business.
That's true, definitely. And it's still it's a very big industry, Tony. I mean, are there any numbers? I mean, as far as how big your industry actually is?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we track that, very carefully. We're involved with the AAIA, and they do an aftermarket report yearly. So when we look at what we call the light vehicle aftermarket, that is the amount of potential work that is out there available per year, both in parts and labor. That number currently today is at about $160 billion opportunity in the U.S. alone. And the interesting part is that it continues to grow every year at about $5 billion a year. So the Lang report estimates that in 2011 it'll be at about $165 billion, and in 2012 it'll be at $170 billion. So just huge numbers.
Wow. Yeah.
And then when you take that, when you take that number and you look at two other factors that add in, one is the number of vehicles that are on the market and the age of the vehicles, because as you know, because of the economy the past few years, people have shied away from buying new cars, so they're actually keeping their cars longer. The average age of a car right now is almost 11 years. So we have more cars on the road, the people are keeping them longer than ever before, and we have less overall service base available. Over the last 10 years, there have been 50,000 bays that have closed throughout the U.S. So again, what that means is that those businesses that are still in business, the opportunity is for more vehicles per bay of service available when you put in all of those features. So we truly are a recession-resistant business, and one that continues to grow annually. So we're very, very proud of that fact.
I guess the reason for the closings, Tony, maybe is maybe just poor management. I mean, I know it could be a number of reasons, but it's why the strength of franchising, people knowing the Aamco name, why they want to go back. I guess it's competition. It hurts other businesses. But you're right, it's a good point. People are, during this recession, times are tough for people holding on to their cars, so it's really putting Aamco in a real nice position right now. I'm sure a lot of your franchisees are doing well, and there's more expansion options for them, I guess.
Absolutely. It's a combination of those. And, on the franchise, obviously, when you look at the strength of a brand, I mean, today, more and more, it's all about branding. People trust a brand. People trust a national brand because, if nothing else, they're assured of consistency and quality and convenience. For example, in our business, we are the only brand that offers a nationwide warranty on our work. So that means you could have your work done here in Philadelphia. You can do a transmission job here in Philadelphia. You're taking a road trip with the family and the kids, and you end up somewhere in, you were talking about Colorado earlier, and something happens. Well, you don't have to worry. You just have to go to the closest Aamco, and they will honor that warranty. They'll do the work to you with no issues, and you're back on your feet and back on the road. So issues like that are very important. People appreciate that. The other thing that we have introduced since 2005 is our total car care. We have such a strong customer awareness amongst our transmission customers. I mean, our brand has over 96% customer awareness, and more importantly, our customers trust us. And the philosophy is that if our customers trust us with transmission, which is probably the most important or the most complicated part of the automotive repair business, then they're also more likely to trust us with their other repairs. So over the last 5 years, we've seen our business evolving. I mean, as stable and as established as we are, we also recognize that we have to keep up with the times. So we have been evolving our business to be not only a transmission business, which is still very much the core of our business, but we've also expanded into the total car care. And the benefit of that is that over the last 5 years on the total car care, our same-store sales have been seeing double-digit sales growth every year over the last 5 years, and we fully expect that trend to continue well into the future.
Impressive.
Well, we have to take a quick break. Are you able to stick around for another segment?
Absolutely, be happy to.
That's fantastic. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Franchise Interviews. For over 2 years now, Franchise Interviews has been giving you an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys.
And our free franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise.
And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919. Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the entrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. We have a great show today. We're meeting with Tony Padillo, Vice President of Franchise Sales Development for the Aamco franchise opportunity. And Aamco is the world's largest chain of transmission specialists and one of the leaders in total car care services. And Don, I think you're up.
Yeah, Tony, what are some of the, you have so many franchise units, all different types of owners. Are there certain characteristics you look for in a franchisee as you continue to grow?
Sure, that's an interesting and complicated question at the same time, because one would think when you think of transmission and total car care that we are specifically looking for people with automotive experience, and to be very honest with you, that's not what we're looking for. We actually prefer when people don't have that kind of background because of the of the strong and the robust training that we offer both pre and during the opening, it's actually easier for us to train our franchisees to operate successfully, with the training. So to answer the question, I think that the characteristics we look at, I always look at, having been in the business for so many years, you have the prerequisites, obviously having the cash available, having a desire to operate your own business, the dedication, the ability to manage a business. But what I've always looked for, what I've found over my 30 years, that what has always been to me the most important part of looking at the qualifications of a franchisee is the passion and the dedication that candidate has during the process. We want franchisees that believe in the brand, that honestly believe that this brand is what they're looking for, meets their dreams, will allow them to reach their dreams, and they see the value of the franchisor and the systems that are in place, and really believe in it. So that's really what I look for primarily.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers the question, but it's really much more around belief, dedication, meeting their goals, as opposed to experience.
Okay. And maybe talk about training a little bit. I'm sure that's something the franchisee really benefits from, a long, detailed training.
This is really a hallmark of our brand. We have our Vice President of Training, Mike Maaco, has been with Aamco for 35 years. He just celebrated his 35th anniversary this year.
Wow.
And he's absolutely incredible as a trainer. And what we do is we have a two-phased training program. Prior to opening the store and while the center is under construction, we provide a 3-week training course, which is given here at our corporate headquarters for the franchisees, and if they want, they can bring their potential center manager with them. And the course is built around how do you run your business, how do you optimize, and how do you maximize your business, how do you get the best levels of revenue based on the opportunities. But where we differentiate ourselves, again, from a lot of other franchisors, is that after that part of the training is done, because it's one thing to do classroom-style training, but the reality is when you get into your center and you open up the doors, panic usually sets in, and you see, gee, what did I learn? What have I forgotten? So what we do is we have, as part of our process, a 5-week program where we actually have a trainer come in and work with you and your entire staff for 5 weeks. I don't know any other franchisor that offers that level of training in the stores when they're ready to open. And that 5 weeks is usually split up. We do 3 weeks initially at the opening, probably leave for a week or two, give them a chance to operate on their own, make sure they're comfortable, and then we come in for the last 2 weeks and finish up our training. So that part is incredible. Then, on an ongoing basis during the course of your franchise agreement, we offer in the field training programs at every level. So whether it's on the customer service managers, on how to respond to leads, how to build the business, or whether it's on the technical side for the technicians, how to do certain kinds of jobs, where we will have our technicians go in and do anywhere from a 1-day to a 1-week, as required, class in the field. So we assemble, local or regional centers, and they just bring their people in, and that's all done at our expense.
And I guess
for Tony to emphasize, or if you could just tell our listeners, because you've been in franchising such a long time, Tony. I mean, you obviously have a passion for franchising and you believe in it. What advice would you give to our listeners who are looking to buy a franchise? What would you say to them?
I would say the first thing you've got to look at, you've got to determine, is what are you looking for? I mean, I know I said it earlier, but that this truly is important.
Yeah, I agree,
Don't look at a franchise by segment. And what I mean by that is, especially having been with Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin-Robbins for 22 years, and I also know the QSR business quite well, and so many people say, I want to buy a restaurant, But the reality is that may not be what they're looking for. I mean, restaurant business is 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Look instead what it is that will make you happy, because it's all about being happy. So understand what you're looking for, and then keep an open mind and look at what your financial resources are, and what can you buy in that range, as opposed to limiting yourself to segments. So, for example, our business model, our investment level, is between $225,000 to $299,000, with the average being around $240,000. So, if you were a prospective candidate, what I would say to you is look at the franchises that you can get in that price range, and start your search there, and then match them up. Obviously, you're looking at all the traditional criteria. How long have they been in business? How stable are they as a franchisor? What kind of support will you get? I mean, those are all the standard things you have to look at. But the most important is make sure that your needs are met, and that you find a franchise that meets those needs. Whatever your dream is, whatever your most important how would I put it? Your most important goal is. Match it against that.
Yeah, well said.
Great advice. Yeah,
I totally agree. Tony, we have about 60 seconds. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information on becoming an Aamco franchisee? Are there any websites or phone numbers they can call?
Absolutely. A couple of ways. One, you can go to our Aamco franchise website. That site is aamcofranchise.com. You can call our hotline where somebody will speak to you at 1-800-523-0402. So I would say between those two methods, you'll certainly be able to reach us, and we will respond to you quickly.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Tony. You've been an incredible guest, and Don and I would both love to have you back in the future.
Oh, anytime. I'd be happy to. It's my pleasure.
Thanks so much, Tony. Have a great day today.
Thank you, and thanks again for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Our pleasure.
No problem.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Great show, huh, Don?
Yeah, good guy, long time in franchising, type of person we always want to have on the show with so much experience. And Aamco's an interesting story. We've had a few automotive franchises, but it's nice to have one of the leaders.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you look back at their history, isn't it? I mean, it's just an incredible history, strong history, and I think that's also very important when you're looking to buy a franchise. And, Tony was great about mentioning the quality of life. I think that's so important. I think there's a lot of people out there that get into the wrong franchise opportunity sometimes. And I have to ask you a question: what do you want this franchise to do for you? And, that's an amazing training program, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt.
That's just incredible. So they make sure that their franchisees are just ready to go. So that's great to see. So good job.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 4 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Check out our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. Get 3 months of free advertising when you sign up for our 1-year package. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the entrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed about owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And segment 2 is being brought to you today by Franchise Interviews, LLC. And Franchise Interviews gives you an up-close and behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show on Blog Talk Radio, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and franchise attorneys. and our monthly franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise. And don't forget to check out our new podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. Well, today we have a great show, Don. We have the pleasure of meeting with 1-800-Radiators, Mr. Kelly Grace, who's the Vice President of Franchise Development. And 1-800-Radiator is one of the fastest-growing franchises in North America. 1-800-Radiator delivers brand-new radiators within 2 to 3 hours to its local customers and next day to customers outside the same-day area. Hey, Kelly, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Marty, Don, good morning. How are you?
Good, Kelly. How you doing today?
Good morning.
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
That's good. Thanks for coming back, Kelly. Kelly, we always like to start off telling our listeners where you're calling from today.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, great. And your headquarters, Kelly, is in California, that's correct?
Yeah, our headquarters is in Benicia, California, just outside of San Francisco.
Okay, that's fantastic. And that's where the company actually started, too, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
That's fantastic. Hey, Kelly, I know you have an interesting background, a little different. How did you get involved in franchising? What were you doing before joining the 1-800-Radiator franchise opportunity?
Well, like many people in the automotive parts distribution business, I was teaching 6th grade in the Oakland Unified School District, so definitely not the obvious precursor to this kind of work.
Right, which is interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because, I was researching the franchisees for 1-800-Radiator, and it seems like a lot of them have diverse backgrounds as well, too, Kelly. They come from, corporate America and all sorts of places, so you really don't have to have that automotive background.
That's right.
That's interesting.
And teaching, Kelly, probably, you have to have a lot of patience, I guess. Sales and marketing, I guess that, of course, helped you, any type of background, especially teaching, having that patience in what you're doing now, trying to build a franchise, being involved in the sales and marketing and so forth, right?
Well, absolutely. There's actually some surprising parallels, that translate pretty well in the business environment, and it has a lot to do with organization and planning, just being prepared. So and I think that's one of the things that we've done really well at 1-800-Radiator.
And maybe tell us about the history of the company a little bit, Kelly, please.
Yeah, well, the owner is Mike Rippey, and he purchased this business, I want to say about 16 years ago now, from a gentleman by the name of Mike Holcomb, who started the business over 25 years ago. And Mike had worked in the aftermarket, the radiator business prior to, starting 1-800-Radiator, and he had a lot of insight and saw that the industry was going through some pretty significant changes. Back in the old days, most of the radiators were made of brass and copper. Right. And so, most people would just take their car into a shop and get it repaired. A lot of times you had to have it soldered or, recored. But it got to be more cost-effective as radiator manufacturers started selling directly, just to purchase a new one with a warranty on it as opposed to getting it fixed. And so we got in, very early during that transition, and that's really benefited us. It's helped us really establish, some strong relationships with a lot of the vendors out there that make radiators.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, Kelly, because it's, I was doing a little research. It says there's 220 million cars on the road today, and I guess a radiator, does it go after, typically, is it 8 years they need to?
Yeah, usually 7 or 8 years. It's that's typically when you start to see radiator failure.
Right, which is a pretty big market, right.
Yeah, and we do quite a bit of collision repair part replacement as well. So, that's another dynamic that's helped us. Just about any front-end collision will involve a radiator and an AC condenser.
That's interesting.
I was going to ask that, Kelly, as far as, every business needs to be a little diversified. That's interesting. That's, I guess, another income area for your franchisees, handling the collision. I imagine getting to be more than the radiator part of the business as far as income?
Well, it's probably about 12 to 15% of our wholesale business, which is about 80% of our customer base. And these would be, mom and pop shops to major collision repair chains to part stores and fleet accounts as well. So one of the things that 1-800-Radiator has done very well, and we pride ourselves on being a very data-driven technology company. So we think of ourselves first and foremost as a sales marketing company. Right. And a lot of the candidates that I talk to understand that and are attracted to that in looking for businesses. They're all looking for something fairly conservative, that's not subject to swings in the market. They're looking for something that has, long-term growth potential. And we offer that, just by the nature of this brick-and-mortar type of industry. But our approach is entirely unique in that we're the only franchise distribution company out there. So you have an owner-operator with a lot more buy-in with our buying power and someone who's able to utilize the technology that we've developed. We have a pretty sophisticated web-based point-of-sale system. And so, when we come into a market, we know it very well. We have a lot of data on the population, the number of shops, the breakdown of the type of shops, and how best to price these customers, and service them and market to them. So that's worked out really well for us, especially over the last 3 years.
And it seems like it was a given with the 1-800 Radiator name that it was going to be a franchising system. When did you say the company started franchising, Kelly?
Well, I started with the company a little over 5 years ago, and at that time we had 28 corporate warehouses. So, if you were in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and you were a shop and you called 1-800 Radiator, your call was being picked up at our call center in Benicia,
right.
And we would ship a part to you out of our local warehouse. And so it wasn't the most efficient system. You had 3 or 4 people involved in what should have been a fairly simple transaction, which meant a lot of opportunities for errors to take place.
Right.
So when I started with the company, I think that Mike probably had it in his head that he needed to grow the company in order to gain market share. And I think probably in that first year that I was with the company, he had his sights on, growing it rapidly, but also doing it in a way that would create, the kind of performance that we were seeing at corporate warehouses that were closer to California, where we had a little bit more control. To create that sort of infrastructure. And I think he saw the best way of doing that was to, provide an owner-operator, a protected territory within, give him the framework to work and grow, his area and develop his own customers. So, it was probably about 4 years ago, I think.
Right. So really, since you've come on, there's just been a lot of growth. It's just getting better as time goes on for new franchisees. And, that can be my next question when you're talking to a franchisee. I mean, how do you describe the 1-800 Radiator system to them, Kelly?
Well, it's interesting because usually the first thing that I need to do is sort of debunk the idea that, this is a sort of a roll-up-your-sleeves, grease monkey kind of business for car enthusiasts. We certainly love talking to people that understand cars and have a passion for them, and I talk to a lot of those guys, and I think they can have an advantage coming in and talking to shop owners. But really, the types of owners and candidates that I talk to, are more interested in margins and in the cost-effective nature of the business. It's such a simple model. The hours are pretty forgiving when you stack it up to, some of the retail and food franchises out there that require 7-day-a-week, owner-operator involvement.
Right.
So, a lot of the guys I talk to like that this is a Monday through Friday deal with usually 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's interesting because I imagine a lot of the prospective franchisees that come to you, Kelly, I mean, they are looking for, we say franchising is a means to an end. They want to perhaps spend more time with their family, I'm sure I suspect you see that a lot, so it is interesting. It seems like a fairly easy sale, too. Kelly, I suspect, when you're getting into training and stuff like that, training your guys, I mean, it can't be, I guess, a very difficult sales pitch when you're on the phone or meeting prospects face-to-face, I imagine.
That's right. It's a pretty simple approach, and that's why we've done well with people that wouldn't normally consider themselves sales-oriented.
Right.
I talk to a lot of guys that have pretty good business management experience, and they understand the business logic of it, but they haven't done, face-to-face sales before, and
right.
And that isn't necessarily a deal killer. I mean, most of the shops that we talk to, they don't have a lot of time to sit down with you. They're answering their phone, taking care of customers, so they want you to kind of get to the point. And what we're offering is a product they're already using, so it's not a door-to-door vacuum cleaner deal.
Right.
The best approach is usually to just let them know you're here. Go over the quality that we carry, and we bring in our vendor sheets, and guys in the industry know that we're very focused on quality, and we back it with a lifetime guarantee. So there's a lot of tools that these guys can use without having to oversell or get aggressive with shops. That help.
That's interesting.
And I guess that potential franchisee, that investor, like you said, Marty, over 220 million cars around the country.
Right.
I mean, that's Combine that with the hours, with the with the strength of what what you're putting together there, Kelly. It seems like it's a real nice fit. And let's face it, a car's a necessity. Your product's a necessity. Once something happens, they have to get it. So that's that's a nice situation for your company to be in.
Yeah, that's right. And that was one of the attractive things that Mike Rippey saw in the business early on. That a radiator's not a nice to have. So whether the economy is up or down, when you need your car. And, I hate to say it, but even in the last couple of years, as the economy's gotten a little tighter, that's benefited, I think, our industry indirectly because people tend to hold on to their cars a little bit longer.
Interesting.
So there's a greater market, I think, for part replacement.
Yeah,
good point. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
It is. Yeah. What I like, too, Kelly, is the repeat sale factor. I mean, it seems like, the most difficult sale is always getting the first sale, but it seems like because you guys are so customer service oriented, you're getting that repeat sale, which is just so important. Really turns into a nice business. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But what role has technology played in your business? In my research, it sounds like a lot, actually.
Well, it's funny. If you ever visit our headquarters, it looks more like a bank than an automotive type of business.
I've seen the website. Yeah, it was quite impressive, actually, with the call centers and everything. Yeah, it's just incredible.
I think we have more software engineers there than customer service reps, but the technology has been the cornerstone of the business.
Right.
We're, like I said, we're a very data-driven company, so we like to make decisions based off of sort of a proven model, and we do a lot of testing, and it's shaped the way that we market not only to wholesale customers but how we sell to retail. And we have several different websites, and we can track the effectiveness of the aesthetic and how they're ranking in search engines. But what we offer to franchise owners that I think is the most effective piece of our technology is within the web-based point-of-sale system that we've created. It was extremely user-friendly and was made for people that don't have that comfort level with computers.
Right.
We wanted it to do the thinking for them. It tracks everything that your customer is doing when they get a quote on a part, when they buy a part, when you've changed their pricing. So using that data in a pretty streamlined CRM, customer relationship management database, our owners in 2 point and clicks of a mouse can look at real-time data that shows who their customers are and what their volume is, so that they can filter that data to come up with a marketing strategy. And we work very closely during the grand opening and our 2-week marketing blitz in ongoing the franchise owners to help them understand the data.
Right.
But essentially it's telling these guys where they need to spend time and with whom, how they need to price their product, what marketing campaigns that they've run had an impact. So as these guys sell product in their territories, they're accumulating, data that is informing them on how best to approach their market. And I think by spending a little bit of time to utilize that data, you can get some pretty good direction on, what approach your market needs, based on your competition. And
It sounds like technology is really making a difference, setting you apart from your competition on both sides, the product itself and also how to market. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, it's really useful, and we're light years ahead of our average competitor, with the data. We don't like to guess at how we should price, and we don't want to guess at, why we're up or why we're down in market. So that's really given us, I think, a key edge.
Yeah, even your e-catalogs, too, I was researching, Kelly. I mean, it's just amazing all the money that's actually saved today, using e-catalogs. You think about the old days 15, 20 years ago, mailing these things out had to be very expensive.
That's right. Yeah, we've done a good job with that, and are still working on technology right now that'll take us to the next level, in developing and making it easier for our wholesale customers to order product and check on pricing and inventory.
That's incredible. How big is the industry? Is there any dollar amount, Kelly, as far as your industry?
I think it's a $6 billion a year industry when you look at the HVAC air parts and radiator combined.
That's amazing.
And so, it's astonishing. It's one of those niche markets that's you wouldn't think is as big as it is.
Exactly.
But,
that's interesting.
What's been the most like a lot of the people we interviewed, Kelly, usually something interesting goes on at the history they've been at the company. I was just going to ask, what's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you since joining the franchise company?
It's hard to say because it's changed so quickly. I've worn a lot of different hats, and that's one of the things I love about working with 1-800-Radiator. But I think the thing that personally I enjoy most about this company is that they're very big picture, and it's the complete opposite of a highly structured corporate conservative environment. That because they can measure performance and data. Whatever has worked is what they'll go with. So, I've enjoyed the autonomy I've been given and the freedom I've been given to do my job. And I think the thing I enjoy the most is going out and visiting and meeting with candidates that are looking at our model, because you're meeting with somebody who's on the verge of transitioning from a corporate environment where he works for somebody else,
right,
or she's tired of her job, or, they got a little bit of capital, they want to invest in the business, they're not sure, what's right for them yet. And when I meet with them, it's always exciting to see someone who's at that sort of place where they're about to make a major decision, and it's exciting. And, I think that...
Not only that, the success stories as well, I imagine. The people you're hearing who are successful and happy in the system, I guess, is, a good feeling, too.
Absolutely, yeah. And I stay in contact with a lot of the franchise owners now that have been up and running for 3 years that, I talked to when they were kicking the idea around initially. So that's been fun, seeing how, hearing about what's gone well for them and what they've done that's worked. And I really enjoy working with our owners.
That's great.
Yeah, I see your point about the just being at the company at a nice time. So you're really going to, you're there helping with the growth, and there's just so much more potential. It's a good, that's a good time to be at a company. And like you said, you have the freedom to kind of utilize your skills and so forth, as opposed to the example you used of a company that's, where it takes a lot, maybe a lot of red tape to be able to do things. It seems like you're having some nice freedom there.
That's right. Yeah, it's really exciting. I can't say that I've ever worked for a company like this, or ever will again, that's had the unprecedented growth and has changed its models, so dramatically,
right.
While I've been on board. So that's been really exciting.
That's great. What about the location, Kelly? Go back to the location. Is location important for a 1-800-Radiator franchisee, or how much space is actually required?
Well, a warehouse should probably be about 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
It used to be about 2,000, but as we've grown and added product line, if a candidate is getting into a 2 or 3 year lease, in a warehouse, they're probably going to want a little extra space. So about 3,000 square feet.
Okay, good.
Would do it. As far as where the warehouse should be, that's very important, and we work closely with candidates to help them find a spot that's logistically sensible to give them the best opportunity to service customers quickly,
right.
but also something that's cost effective. And the good thing about our business is, since this is distribution, you don't need expensive commercial storefront. You just need something near the interstate that can keep your radiators dry.
That's absolutely, it's important.
Yeah, that's a good point right there, which I guess is another selling point to an investor with 1-800-Radiator, that or to just speed up the process to get in business, because a lot of people can't find that location for a specific type of franchise. It can cost them months. I've heard a lot of stories, my company being in financing, Kelly, that people can't start up, they can't find that location. I guess with your business, it's just not as extensive.
Yeah, it's the warehouses we have really run the gamut as far as what they look like and where they're at. But there's some consistency in how we set these up, and because these are protected territories, and we're not a company that's going to open up a warehouse down the street because the market's been so good to us. We can't afford for any of these locations to fail. So with each step of the process, from the first phone call that I have with a candidate, to getting them up and running, it's critical that we do it well, that we get them started on the right foot in the right location, and so we are pretty careful from an IT point of view as far as making sure they're in a place that obviously has internet, and will be logistically smart as well. So
is that something that's handled in-house as far as helping someone find a lease and location, or utilize some outside specialist to help a franchisee in that area?
We do it in-house, and we've got a couple of different accounts with companies that allow you to look at commercial real estate. So we can do a lot of help there. A lot of the candidates I talk to call me because they have a warehouse already, or they already have a few places in mind. So sometimes it's pretty easy. All we need to do is look at an address that someone's given us and give them the go-ahead on it. Other times we're pretty hands-on and have even sent people into the territory to get out on foot. Sometimes the old-fashioned way is how you have to do it.
Exactly. What types of characteristics do you look for in a franchisee?
For the longest time, we've been trying to nail down who the prototype is, so we know how to market to them and to attract those types of people. But we've really had success with a diverse range of candidates. So we've got people with very different backgrounds that have done really well in this business. So I think there's just a few key things that we look for, and much of it has to do with personality. Because our systems are so user-friendly, you don't need to have an IT background. It's not what we're looking for. So we're looking for people that we would buy a radiator from, someone who's gregarious and is not afraid to go out and make 15 or 20 sales calls a day, and would manage people well and motivate people well. So, a lot of the people I talk to, I can sense that right away in what they do currently at their job.
So you mentioned earlier you don't really need someone to have a sales background, just someone who's outgoing. I guess part of your system and training and everything could, discuss all the specifics. But I guess someone having that nice personality, that's probably going to be good enough to help sell.
That's right. I mean, it's really so much of this is about personality, and just how motivated they are to grow the business. We're obviously looking for someone who wants to invest in growing something that they're going to own, and so we steer away from people that maybe want to buy multiple territories and hire people to run them, to run like the master franchise model. It's not to say it couldn't work, but we look for someone who really wants to take the next step and be actively involved, on a day-to-day basis in growing the business. So,
how important is prior business ownership?
I think it can certainly help, but it's not a prerequisite. I think having run a business before, you may have an advantage as far as understanding how to put cost and sales projections together and, what to realistically assume as far as growth. But I think what differentiates our franchise model from so many businesses is that a lot of our franchise owners typically hit a break-even point or start netting, within their first year. And I think that's unique in most businesses. It takes a couple of years before you get to that point. So, I mean, obviously we don't promise profitability, and each market's a little bit different. But when you look at the numbers, if you're running an average, cost structure and you're not overwhelmed by debt service, with our model, I think that, the economics are definitely there. So even someone who hasn't owned a business before, I think we work pretty closely with them to help them understand that, very early on. And we want to make sure that we manage expectations so that before day one, owners have a pretty realistic idea of what to assume and what they need to do.
That's interesting. What's the training like for new franchisees, Kelly? Does it take place at the corporate headquarters, and how long are they there for?
The training is very comprehensive. An owner will come out to corporate often with someone they hired or with their husband or their wife. They're going to be involved in the business. They'll spend a week in California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, training with us. And then after that, when we do a grand opening, we usually spend about 2.5 weeks in the territory on site with our sales team. And during that time, our sales reps will go out and visit a lot of these wholesale customers and introduce the new owner to the market, and talk about how they'll get same-day delivery instead of next-day service and drop off some promo materials. But we also do a lot of on-site training. So what the owners learned at corporate will be put, in a practical application environment. So by the time we leave town, they should have a really good frame of reference for the business. And then, ongoing, there's a regional salesperson that's assigned to that territory. And, that regional salesperson has to be able to explain to Mike Rippey why or why not an owner is doing okay. Right. So you've got someone who's got an incentive to make sure your staffing is where it needs to be. You understand your inventory management and your sales. So.
Fantastic. What is a typical day like? You kind of hinted, Kelly, but for a 1-800-Radiator franchisee.
Well, I think a good franchisee rolls in, maybe 7:15, 7:30. Make sure their phone person is there. Plans their work for the day. Maybe has a visit list. Some customers they want to go visit. Maybe some bigger buyers. Or some new buyers, people who've never bought before. They'll have a delivery driver that'll usually show up probably around 8, and I think a typical day, the average owner is going to want to spend 3 or 4 hours out in the field, going out and generating business. And it's important for an owner to be able to manage from the inside out and understand how to do some of the day-to-day things. But, I think that it's really pretty simple. Maybe half of a day out in the field and half of a day at your warehouse, seeing how the calls are going, who called in for quotes, putting away inventory that comes in. It's pretty simple. I think by 5 o'clock, you're reconciling your orders from that day and, getting out of there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's fantastic. You get to spend, the rest of the day with your family, so great.
And there's no time for lunch, right?
Well, that just depends on who you are, I suppose. But I think there's always time for lunch.
Right, absolutely.
What advice, Kelly, would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur looking to buy a franchise? You mentioned a couple good things with the characteristics, but as far as someone listening to the show right now, what advice would you give? You've been in franchising a little while.
Sure. Well, we've got, I think, about 15 territories left for sale, and I've spoken to a lot of franchise candidates, and I think that the advice that I would give is to do your homework and to, have a pretty clear-cut goal on the type of business that you want to get into. Look at the quality of life, what kind of, money you're hoping to get out of the business, and look to reconcile those two things and do your homework. And, I think that would be it. If I was looking into this myself, I'd want to make sure that the company I was with was supportive, that I, was on board with the culture of that company, not just the territory I was looking at, but or the business, but what do the owners have to say about the corporate, the support they're getting. That would be key for me.
Yeah, it's so important.
So a lot of your prospects, I imagine they would call existing franchisees. It's a great way to really find out what's going on with the franchise. I imagine that happens a lot.
We're very transparent at 1-800-Radiator, and I would much rather work intensively for 2 weeks with a candidate to find out that it's not a good fit than to rush somebody into anything, because that's not good for us, that's not good for them. So, we encourage candidates to talk to as many owners as they can, ask them a lot of the questions, where does the tire meet the track, from what I tell them. But we help them put together a business plan, and, we go over our systems with them. A lot of times they'll come out to California and meet with us at corporate. So, I think if you spend a good 2 weeks, 3 weeks looking into it, you're doing yourself a big favor, and that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, it's a long-term commitment. Marty and I talk about that all the time. There's a lot of different things to look at. Besides just the investment itself, you got to look at yourself. And we talked a little bit about the hours someone would have working this type of business. Someone has to really think about that aspect, think short and long term. So it's a good point you bring up, Kelly, to really make sure someone has thought out this whole thing because of the type of commitment that they're going to have.
That's right.
What do you always compare it to, Marty? What do you always call franchising?
It's a marriage.
Right.
I've been like that years, yeah. What are 1-800-Radiator's plans for the future, Kelly? I mean, it sounds like you guys are going to be sold out in the near future as far as territories go.
I think it's twofold. One thing is, as we patch up these remaining territories for sale, we want to continue a vertical growth model within these areas that we're up and running in. So what we're doing is expanding the product line that we're carrying so that we have more product to offer our wholesale buyers. And the beauty of the wholesale business is once you've got storage and a marketing plan in place and distribution, you want relevant, high-margin items in-house that you can, give to, that you can sell to your existing customers. So it's going to be product line expansion. We're getting into crash parts. So, we want to continue to make inroads and growth with our collision repair customers. Mirrors and fan assemblies, and last year we got into the HVAC air part kit, so that was really key for us. The other thing is acquisition. We've had a very busy acquisition schedule, and right now I think that people within our industry are seeing the sea change that's taken place over the last couple of years, and smaller independent radiator distributors are seeing the logic in teaming up with us or maybe getting out of the business. It's been tough for them to compete, and so we'd like to continue with that. We want to be continue to be the largest radiator and cooling parts distributor in North America, and so and that's gone really well. I think we're a little ahead of schedule from where we thought we would be when we started this, with just number of locations open and where we're at with getting into new product and the acquisition schedule. So.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you, Kelly, about any international growth. It sounds like maybe you've started that, or that's going to be happening soon.
Well, we've got markets in Canada right now. We have 10 locations with a couple more that are set to open up here this fall. So we've done very well. We're really pleased with what we're seeing there, and we're always open to considering international markets. We haven't made a big push for attracting candidates yet, but we've talked to a few people in Costa Rica and some of the Latin American countries. So I think that's an exciting prospect for us. It's not 100% where our focus is yet, but I can see us getting into that.
That's fantastic. Kelly, we have about 30 seconds. What's the best way to get more information on becoming a 1-800 Radiator franchisee?
I think www.1800radiator.com. So 1-800radiator.com would be a great start. Anyone can call me at 866-780-9392. I'm available anytime. I'd love to talk with anyone that's interested in what kind of territories we have available, and any general questions I have. That'd be a great start.
That's fantastic. And we have links on our websites as well. So, and I want to thank you again, Kelly. You've been a fantastic guest, and I'd love to have you guys back in the very near future as you guys continue to grow.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Marty and Don, and really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Kelly. You have a great day today.
All right, you too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Great show, huh, Don?
Yeah, interesting.
Very interesting concept, it makes a lot of sense. Again, I was kind of unfamiliar with them when we, when I found out we were going to have them on the show, and, researching them just sounds like a fantastic concept.
Yeah, you think of it as just, they're all about distribution and having the warehouses and, different type. It's not like your typical, say business on a main highway. This is a whole different.
Exactly. It doesn't seem like a very difficult sale to me either. That's something that I always think about. Everything is selling, and the sales pitch I don't think is very difficult. And, what I love most about this business model is the repeat sale. Once you get that first account, and it seems to me that they do very well in providing the service, they're going to get that repeat sale over and over and over again. So it just sounds like just such a great business model. I was kind of thinking of Warren Greshus as Kelly was speaking, about the whole importance of prospecting, just kind of getting out there 3 hours a day and just making, phone calls or just, seeing, as many prospects as possible. It just seems like that's all you have to do with this type of business model, So it's just a very interesting concept. I'm glad we had them on the show. Yeah,
I love the name of the business. I like the fact they're diversified, and it seems like that's a growing segment of their business, the whole collision process. Because let's face it, there's accidents all over the place. It's why my car insurance is so high. But
there you go. Absolutely. I know. One thing I forgot to mention, too, was that 1-800 Radiator was ranked number 37 by Entrepreneurs, one of the fastest growing franchises. So, so he did a great job. It was fun having him on the show. This week we have Thursday.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 4 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Check out our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. Get 3 months of free advertising when you sign up for our 1-year package. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the entrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And as we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Rick Obsit, who is the Franchise Development Manager for Maaco. And Maaco is America's body shop with nearly 500 franchise locations across the continent, boasting system-wide sales that approach $500 million. Hey, Rick, good morning. Welcome to the show. Let's see if I can bring Rick in. Hey, Rick, how are you? Rick, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and I think you might even know Don.
Oh, I know Don real well. Don and I have been business partners, colleagues for 10 years now.
Wow.
We go way back.
Definitely. Rick,
I recognize that voice.
He does have a very distinct voice, doesn't he, Rick?
He does. As soon as I came out, I said, that's Don.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect for radio, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, who knew. Rick, we always like to start off asking our guests where you're calling from this morning.
I'm calling from Philadelphia. Our home base is in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm not that far from you, actually, up in Williams Township, Pennsylvania, which is about like 50 miles north of Philadelphia. So that's fantastic. So I know what the weather is there today. So
yeah,
that's great.
Nice.
Yeah. Rick, what were you doing before joining the Maaco team?
Well, I've been in franchising. That's where I met Don many years ago. I've been in franchising for 36 years.
Wow.
One of the old timers, kind of go back to my early days. About 28 of them I was on the operational side. I guess I got my feet wet with 7-Eleven stores, Southern Corporation, for quite a few years.
Right.
And spent time operationally with Nutrisystem. That was a franchise organization back then at the time, and did a couple brief stints as a CEO of a couple chains. One was a restaurant chain, and the other was actually a regional franchise operation for Great Clips, the haircutting people. So I was a regional franchisor for them. And most recently, I guess where I met Don was through the transmission side of the business before I was headhunted over to Maaco a few years ago. And
he had some good experience for some big name companies.
Yeah, really do. And I really love the franchise development side of things. I guess after 36 years, you kind of like being a little bit of your own boss and dealing with people. One of the things I've always enjoyed doing is helping people fulfill their dreams. And being 100% honest with them, letting them know here's the good points, here's the pitfalls, and making sure they know what they're getting into, because you gotta look at both sides of the coin when you're talking to people, and make sure there's no surprises and no buyer's remorse at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
That's
you do have to
great
make sure it's the right person, the right type of person that will follow the system and all the stuff Marty and I have talked about on the show the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's very interesting because at Maaco, one of the things that we do stress is, obviously a person has to be financially qualified, but we really take a look at people carefully as they're investigating the business that they are following the system. Because, it's not, when you become an entrepreneur in a franchise organization, you still have a very distinct obligation to follow the process. And that's what makes franchises strong. And how they follow your development process is going to be an indication of what they may be like and when they become a franchisee.
Right. So, of course, Maaco, quite a history, well-known nationwide company, over 500 units. Maybe talk about, Rick, the history of the company and who started it and when they began franchising and everything.
Well, it was founded. We were founded 38 years ago, and it's one of those absolute franchise entrepreneur. We were founded by Tony Martino. Now, if you know the name and you know a lot of people, he was the IFA Man of the Year, etc. But Tony originally founded Aamco, the Anthony A. Martino Company.
Right.
And after about 10 years or so, he sold that to his partner, and he went off and he founded Maaco, the Martino Anthony A. Company. Had that forever. It was always his flagship. He also founded during that period of time the Goddard Schools, another premier franchise.
Yeah.
So he was a true entrepreneur. Unfortunately, about 2 years ago, Tony passed away very suddenly, and it was kind of a shock to everybody. And his family sold the business, but I think the marriage that we have now with our new parent company, Driven Brands.
Right.
I was listening to Nancy in the last segment. She talked about Ken Walker. Well, Ken Walker is our CEO. He's the CEO of Driven Brands, which includes Maaco, Meineke, Econolube, plus all our mobile brands. So we're now one of the world's biggest automotive aftermarket companies in the world. And I think one of the things that's very exciting for us is the fact that tremendous synergies with each other.
Right.
Meineke was on their side of it, and German Brands was very, very good in terms of the IT technology sides of things. Yeah. Maaco, very good in terms of fleet management, system operation, etc. So we have provided just, I think, a terrific marriage, if you will. And now with Ken and his dedication to the IFA, I think it's just a home run.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Everything's just going to get better. Yeah, we would have loved to have had Tony on the show. Him being such an icon, basically. I mean, really, of course, a franchise Hall of Famer, starting up several successful. Wasn't he, Rick, the only person to have started up 3 successful franchise companies having at least 100 units? It was something like that. He set a record, I think.
Yeah, he really did, and it was interesting. I was just privileged to the fact that I was able to work with Tony for a number of years, and he was there every day. I mean, I saw him 15 times a day walking past my office. Wow. He was a wanderer.
And I met him, Marty. I was at an appointment.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure this was at Maaco. This was like about 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago at least, and meeting with a few people in development, and all of a sudden he comes in, and it was great. Got to talk to him a few minutes. He cracked a few jokes. I think I made him laugh a little bit, and so.
Tony was a real personality, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So for people listening, Rick, tell us about just the Maaco franchise system. Just tell us about what the highlights are for people listening or considering investing in a Maaco. What are the highlights?
Well, when you look at Maaco and understand that we're one of those premier brands, huge brand name, been around for a very long period of time. I think one of the things that makes us very, very successful is the fact that we have a very, very definitive system. Because one of the things that may be a little bit different from us versus maybe some other franchises is the fact that our key to success in our centers is production. I mean, we're an assembly line. We're a factory, if you will. Right. Cars come in, or vehicles come in, and they basically spend an hour at each station and move on to the next station for another hour, move on to the next station, move on to the next station. So it's the ability to understand that you've got to follow this process very simply to turn out products that are perfectly done. Right. And it's certainly our challenge is to make sure that our franchisees and their employees and whatnot, we work with them very diligently to make sure we can do that so that we can help them maximize production, which obviously maximize profitability. So a real key to it is the production model. That's how we started, as a production painters. And during the 90s, if you remember, cars didn't fall apart anymore on the road where they rusted apart. You could see through the floorboards of the road. They started developing better clear coats, after coats, undercoats, etc., fiberglass. And all of a sudden they went from 5 or 6 years, they started lasting 9. We expect that to go over 10 years, that the average car will stay on the road 10 years.
Wow.
So we expect that to and continue to grow, which means after a while the cars need to be faded. One of the things I think is a real key to us, especially during these times, is we are a very recession-resistant business. And the reason to say that is, read the papers. Nobody's buying new cars right now. They're fixing, they're keeping their cars longer, and the automotive aftermarket is thriving right now, as we do all the time, because there's over 240 million vehicles on the road right now. So what happens is the cars are lasting longer and longer. People are holding on to them. This is the 4th recession in a row where our average unit volume has actually grown. I mean,
amazing.
Not a lot of companies out there can claim that.
No.
So you take a big brand name, you couple it with a very recession-resistant business, you couple it with a very high-volume business. Our centers, which we disclose in the disclosure document, average $929,000 each. So it's a very high-volume business also. And consider we're open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So we're pushing almost $1 million to the door in a very compressed amount of time. And when we look for what type of franchisees do we look for, people, our franchisee is a person who really fulfills 3 roles. One, the customer side of the business. We advertise, people call on the phone, give them directions, they come in for a free estimate, and they produce the estimate. Normally either them or the employee does that function. So it's a question of getting the customers retained, obviously, as a job. The second part is the production, managing that production flow, making sure that production, because if one area slows, guess what happens to a production line?
Right.
It all slows.
Exactly.
And then, of course, the third one is the financial aspects, cost savings, etc. So we look for a franchisee with one or more of those attributes in their background. And it's very important to us because we want successful franchisees. We don't want people coming on board not knowing what our system is or what their capabilities are. We want to make sure there's a good marriage, a good fit, and they'll be very, very happy in this business. The automobile's been around for 110 years. Doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
So it's interesting, Rick. So their background, their previous lives, really could have been anything, right? I guess they could be accountants or lawyers, whatever it may be. As long as they fit those 3 criteria that you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just franchised this past week to a pilot.
Wow, that's interesting. Don, you would like that with your dad being a
pilot. Well, Rick, my dad was a pilot, and I guess.
Real entrepreneur too.
Well, the pilots get tested, and it's not quite the great industry it was years ago. I guess back when pilots had seniority. But my dad had a car wash, a motel. My family still has other investments. So I guess sometimes, or just people in general. Sometimes, especially the way the new economy, people just want to diversify and maybe own a couple different businesses. I was going to ask you: are you seeing more people, business owners now, who maybe want a second or third business? You seeing more of that, Rick?
Yeah, without a doubt. It was interesting too with the I mentioned about the pilot. His background also as his hobby, he's a race car driver.
That's interesting.
So he kind of loves the environment, if you will.
Good match,
yeah. Now we're seeing a lot of people right now during as you know, both of you have been around franchising for a while. During tough economic times, we get busy in franchise development. There's a lot of people looking for jobs. There's a lot of people worried about their jobs. There's a lot of people out there with some 401k money, or they've developed a little nest egg, and they're saying, you know what, now's the time to diversify. Now's the time to get into a business and kind of start working for myself instead of always working for the man, so to speak. Right. And we're busy. We've been busy for 2 years now as tougher economic times have hit, and I'm talking to 20, 30, 40 people a day.
Wow, great.
So it stays very busy.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was going to say, earlier in segment one, Rick, we were talking about the location factor, so Don was reading an article saying that, there's a lot of killer locations out there. Have you guys seen that, and what kind of location do your franchisees look for? I mean, what kind of space?
Right. Well, one of the things that we tell people right now, which is very, very, very true, is, as you know, prices are depressed on the real estate market. Now is a buyer's market, no question about it. You're looking at bargains out there on real estate properties that are just, we haven't seen in decades.
Yeah.
And we're finding them readily, and we're finding the prices are extraordinarily good. Many of the markets, unfortunately, have suffered through the worst economic times. It's become a much easier market to deal in the real estate end of things. Now, when you look at our real estate, one of the things that we look at, too, with our franchisees is the fact that we encourage ownership of the property. Because what happens is I always tell people, make sure you understand what the system is and make sure you understand what the exit strategy is out of a business. Because someday you're going to need to exit from the business.
Right.
So when you look at, we have a very, very high volume business, then you can have an asset growing for you. If not up front, we'll help you negotiate we have a very full service real estate department, help you negotiate lease purchase options so that you can eventually own the real estate. And that becomes what we call your 21st century 401k.
Right.
Because as you get ready, you can either, keep the business, back off, having somebody start to operate it for you and still be the landlord. Or you can sell the business and still be the landlord. So real estate is a terrific investment. It may have its ups and downs, but in the long term, it's certainly not going anywhere. Now, with our real estate, we look for 7,000, 8,000 average square feet property. We need parking for about 50 cars because we do stay very, very busy. And most towns are going to put our type of business into, light industrial, commercially zoned areas and whatnot. So it's not a business. We're not an impulse business. We're a destination business, which means people are going to call you on the phone. They're not going to pull in and, hey, replace my bumper for me. I've got a couple days on my hands, or fix the side of my car or whatever. We're a destination business. That's why we advertise heavily to drive lead calls to us so that we can fix their car. And people are in love with their cars. I mean, let's face it, it's your second biggest investment. You want to be proud of what you drive. You want to be proud of when you pull into your employee parking lot that, people aren't looking at you like, whoa, what happened to you?
Yeah,
so
true.
They're getting them fixed. And, real estate is a very big part of our business. And it's because we really want you to have two income streams, obviously from a cash flow business, but also from the real estate end of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. That's interesting. Has technology played a role in Maaco's business these days, Rick?
Yeah, we have I think advanced ourselves with the technology. It's I think one of the things that's very interesting in our business is technology in terms of the cars themselves have gotten much, much more complicated. I don't know if you guys ever worked in your cars back years ago. I did. Of course, it was easy. You put brakes on, you did this, you did that. I haven't touched that stuff in years. You open the hood, it jumps out at you like, oh my God, what is this thing? So, and it's become so complicated that part of the business, especially when it comes to the parts and things, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be able to get the answers so that we can replace those parts and things. In the old days, most of it, what we used to do was kind of, straighten, fill, etc. Now a lot of it's parts replacements. You get hit in those fiberglass or bumpers, it's a replacement. You crack the thing in half. You're not going to. You can fix some of it. You can fix, a number of the smaller hits, but many times when you get hit, in a crash that's over 10 miles an hour, it's a part replacement. The other thing is all of the materials that we're using, and we are absolutely concentrating in Maaco on what we call late model seamless repair. Our term for it that we've registered is called Cosmolision Service, and that is where you get hit, a drivable hit, and we have to repair it. Well, it has to be an absolute perfect late model seamless repair that you can't tell was ever repaired. And the materials that we use are very, the latest and greatest materials for fixing those things, in terms of plastics and epoxies and things of that nature, to be able to bond the two elements together. So technology does play a part in that, and then keeping our people up to speed. A lot of the actual workmanship of it is still the same old craftsmanship that's been there for 100 years.
Right.
It's the materials that have really been up to date. And for our franchisees, of course, through Driven Brands, we have Maaco University now available to our franchisees, where we have webinars on all the different trainings and employee trainings and things. And it's been one of the great advancements through Driven Brands that's really helped our franchisees in terms of having literally a university at your fingertips for new people and for management.
So just maybe talk about that, Rick, a little bit, the training for new franchisee. I imagine you have, just unbelievable training process. Yeah,
it really is, Don. And it's one of the things I stress very heavily to any people I work with, because most people come into it and nobody, when they're looking at a franchise, goes, oh, I want automotive, because they automatically think they have to work on cars.
Right.
Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. We don't want them working on cars. We want them concentrating on their business in those three key areas I discussed. And a lot of people come and say, well, I really don't know a lot. I've never done body work. I've never done this. It's too complicated. Well, that's why you franchise. Let the franchisor stand behind and give you the expertise and knowledge that you need. At Maaco, we're very proud of the fact that we probably have one of the most comprehensive training programs for our new franchisees. Firstly, we have a 4-week training in our home office in King of Prussia. It's about 75% classroom, concentrating on those three key elements of the customer, the production, and the finance. About 25% out of classroom. With our new franchisees, we'll actually have them sand and tape and paint and mask and detail a car, so that not so they can do it, just so they can understand the process. We'll take them out to centers and let them do estimates. We'll take them out with a trainer to go out and visit with a used car dealer, et cetera, so they understand that process. Once they graduate after the 4 weeks, we want to get them open 4 or 5 weeks later. We have a new center development team that is just outstanding. They come in about a week to 10 days ahead of time and help the franchisee interview, hire, and train the initial crew. They also will help them do all the initial estimates. They will probably be there for about anywhere from a 2 to 4 week stretch, and then back off, come back in maybe a few weeks later, depending on what their areas of where they need additional work are. During that time, though, the trainer's boss, the supervisor, is talking to them literally every single day, and up front multiple times a day. And the purpose is to keep them focused on key areas, to make sure that they are operating efficient, that they are certified, they're doing those late model seamless repairs perfectly, that they are making money, they're compliant, and also that their volume is taking off and starting to grow towards the chain averages. Their experience in new center development may last anywhere from 6 to 12 months before we graduate them out of there. So both of you are very familiar with franchising, and I'm sure you can appreciate that is a very, very intensive new center development training.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably one of the longest training periods I've heard of.
Yeah, it sounds like it,
Yeah. The more the better.
And that's why we have such a very strong track record of success with our franchisees, and we also have a strong track record of ramp-up time with our franchisees. And I think a lot of it is training. Let's face it, you don't listen to something one time and you learn it. Learning's repetition, and you've got to go over it and over and over and over it until it finally sinks in your sleep.
Oh, that's true. What's a typical day like for a Maaco franchisee, Rick? I mean, it sounds like they're great hours. I mean, so it definitely provides a certain lifestyle for your franchisee. I think where they're home maybe at a decent hour.
Yep.
So what is a typical day like from like morning to the end of the day?
Well, there's no question. The mornings are the critical times in our business.
Mm-hmm.
The morning is when you're there ahead of time. Before you open at 8, the crew gets in a little bit before 8. You have your team meeting, and everything is basically set for the day. Here's the schedule of events, because you've got to make sure that as you're scheduling your crew that you're not sending 4 Ford F-150 full paint jobs through one right after the other, because it's going to slow the production line, because they may take an hour and a half instead of an hour. You want to pulse things. So you're looking at your scheduling, you're making sure they have the materials, their spaces are ready to go. So when they come in, here's the team meeting, here's the schedule for the day, this is what we need to get out. Mornings are always the busiest, and then let them get going. Also, in the mornings are when a lot of people want to show up and drop their cars off. So you're dealing with the customer base at that time also. And the day will progress. Normally, a few hours, make sure everybody's off and running. Our franchisee may elect at that time, well, let me go out and talk to some commercial fleet guys. I got a couple car dealers I want to go talk to, or I've got Chamber of Commerce meeting that I'd like to attend and kind of rub elbows. Basically come back and forth into the meeting. Be involved in the community, but also keep your eye on the production, because I tell people in this business, it's like the ocean. It's beautiful to watch. Don't turn your back on it. We lock the doors at 5. Some of our centers may stay open just to one night or two nights a week, just as a courtesy to people to come in that couldn't make it during the week. But as one person doing estimates. At 5, we're locked. We stress quality of life. We want our franchisees home eating dinner with their family.
Right.
You know, we want them to get ready and have a good night's rest, because the next day, guess what? You're pushing a bunch more cars through here because it's busy.
True.
You've got vendors coming in, dropping off parts. You've got paint suppliers, etc. So it is very busy, and you also want to be able to manage not just the production flow, but manage the cost structures. We're open half a day on Saturday, but it's not a production day. It's that one, maybe two people just there to assist customers with estimates and deliveries, and that's 9 to 12 on Saturday. So it is good quality. We want our people to go on vacations. We want our people to enjoy nights, holidays, and weekends, and be with their family. Enjoy that quality.
In the first segment, Rick, we talked about just the opportunities that's been going on for a while now with franchisees leasing space. A lot of Maaco owners lease their space. I imagine some own the real estate, but there's great deals going on, which I'm sure is great for their overhead.
Well, it really is. What happens, Don, with that is about 10% of our franchisees will buy their real estate up front. The remainder will lease up front. But over 60%, close to 65% of our franchisees do, in fact, own their real estate. So what they'll do is come in with a lease purchase option, or maybe at the end of the first 5 years they realize, hey, this is a little small. My business has really grown. It's time for me to go down in the street and find something and build something from scratch, or convert a space. We also do conversions in terms of converting body shops, where we find the necessary size and whatever, and a person who owned an independent body shop, we're able to convert those spaces too. So we can either do that, we can convert buildings, or we can build from scratch. And we can do it either as a lease or as a purchase. And our real estate department, construction, and equipment people work with our franchisees every step of the way to make that happen.
And I was just going to talk about, this doesn't sound like a business, especially starting out, where there's some absentee ownership to it. I guess like any small business, it's owner-operator. I guess once someone's established, it seems like the type of business, especially you have a manager helping out, where you could, some absenteeism to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And any business, I don't care what kind of franchise. I've been around a number of years to see that, boy, if you don't get the business up and running up front, it takes so much longer to get it running.
Right.
And it's so important to spend that time, effort, and energy initially to really get this thing off and running. We almost sell our franchises in terms of a 15-year term, which it is a 15-year term. But we tell our franchisees, you don't have to leave after 15 years, of course. But the first 5 years, just get this business in stone. Get this thing running like a top, running in your sleep. Second 5 years, pay every debt you have off, be it a business or personal debt. So after a 10-year period, you don't owe a dime to anybody. The third 5 years is develop your successor. And when I say your successor, it could be your son or daughter.
Right.
It could be your manager. It could be somebody you're going to sell it to and be the landlord. So that you can step back and, smell the roses, so to speak, and start thinking of either other investments or maybe slowing up. And we've got so many franchisees, because they've been around for 25, 30, 35 years, that are in those shoes. And and we got a lot of very hands-on owner-operators that really enjoy it, and after 20, 30 years, they're still in there every day. So it can go either which way. We just want to make sure that they have the opportunity to take it in that direction where they can do exactly what you said, Don, and really step back and enjoy it.
That's great. The majority of our listeners, Rick, are aspiring entrepreneurs thinking about buying a franchise. What would you say to them as far as, advice?
A couple points I would make. One, don't necessarily look at your hobby as the business you want, because the first thing you need to look at is what would this thing do in terms of producing income and taking care of my family. A lot of people fall in love with their hobby, and after they get into it, they realize there's no money in this.
True.
You know? So I tell people, make sure you understand the economics of this business. Make sure you understand your role in this business, because I've seen many businesses out there people get into, and they think, oh, this is great. You know, I walked into this place, it was always busy when I was there, and what I didn't realize, though, was I got to be here 90 hours a week.
Right.
And I never see my family. And I haven't taken a vacation. How many times have you heard that? Boy, I haven't taken a vacation in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we want to hear from our franchisees.
Right.
We want them going to our conventions. We want them going to these, fantastic islands and things of that nature. Could just build a better franchise mentality. So make sure you understand those two key elements, what your day is going to be like, and make sure you understand the economics of the business. I also tell people, I personally think brand name is critical in driving business to your location.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very important. It's not totally necessary depending on what your role is in the business, but in ours brand name, keep in mind, we have no national competition. We are the only auto body and painting chain in the United States. So brand name, I think, is very, very important. And then, of course, the system and support. You really want to investigate the company themselves, talking to the franchisees, making sure that you visit with the parent company so you understand, are these the good guys? Are these the guys that are there to help? What are the franchisees saying? Are they the kind of people that, I'm willing to invest in these. I'm willing to spend quite a few years because I trust these guys and I think they're good at what they do and they stay ahead of the curve. So
well, that's great advice.
Yeah, no, it is. This is fantastic advice. We have about 30 seconds, Rick. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information on becoming a Maaco franchisee? Is there a website they can go to or a number they can call?
MaacoFranchise.com.
Okay.
Go into there. There's the information we ask you to complete, and it goes right to the development manager's computer, and it'll be back with you within 24, 48 hours.
Fantastic. I want to thank you again, Rick. You've been an incredible guest, and Don and I would love to have you guys back in the future.
Oh, absolutely. And don't forget about our sister company, Mining.
Not at all. In fact, we'll try to get them on the show as well.
Definitely.
That'll be fantastic. Thanks again, Rick. Have a great day.
Have a great weekend, Rick. Take care.
That was a great show, huh, Don?
Yeah, a great guy, real pro. Been in franchising, at about
36 years, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, all that experience. I mean, so he's really seen it all. You know, you can sense his passion for franchising. I mean, you may have noticed we couldn't even go to commercial because he was just saying so many great things, you know. I just wanted to get all of it, you know, in the short amount of time that we had.
Tony Martino, he's learned from one of the best. And
legend
in a nice
in franchising.
situation. Like he said, some of their brands, they all complement each other. Some very well-known national brands. So I'm sure we'll keep doing a great job.
Yeah, there's a synergy now, you know, with different brands. You know what I mean? So that's, I mean, it's a great partnership. But one of the things I liked about, Maaco and this franchise opportunities, they really do stress the quality of life. You know, and I mean, he spoke about things like, we haven't really spoke much about it in 3 years of doing the show. He's one of the few to do it. Talk about like an exit strategy. You know, I mean, it really does show the concern for their franchisees. You know what I mean? Talking about planning for the future and how you're going to get out of this thing. You know, when the 15 years is up. You know.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have the pressure to add franchisees. They can pick and choose and just make sure it's the right match, the right fit, who they're bringing into the system.
Yeah, it's some training program, isn't it? I mean, it's just pretty intense. I mean, in the 3 years we've been doing the show, it's a strong program. And, the whole technology thing with the webinars and things like that, I attend a lot of those webinars and, for a lot of different things. But, I mean, they really are fantastic, right from your own home office, and it's really great. So, it was a fantastic guest. Love to have, some of their, sister brands on the show as well.
Definitely.
Talk to those guys. So, great job on segment 1 today, Don.
Franchise Interviews. For over 4 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com. where you can hear and read interviews as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Check out our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
So today's show, Don, is being sponsored by Franchise Interviews, LLC. And Franchise Interviews gives you an up-close and behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get insight tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show on Blog Talk Radio, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and franchise attorneys. And our monthly franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise. And don't forget to listen to our new podcast called Great Quotes in Franchising. We just had a new one go out this week, so listen to that. And today we have a great show, Don. We're meeting with Peter Baldine, who is the Chief Development Officer for Moran Industries. And in 1956, Dennis Moran founded Moran Industries based on a simple statement: Americans depend on their cars, and they can depend on us. For over 50 years, Americans have relied on their professionalism and industry expertise to service our cars and maintain them on a regular basis. Hey, Peter, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Peter, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and Don is the president of Diamond Financial. And I know, Don, you wanted to say good morning to Peter.
Thanks, Peter, for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Don. Used to watch you on Miami Vice all the time.
You get that a lot, Peter. Yeah.
yeah. I bet he does. I'm sure that wasn't the first time.
It was not. That's probably about the 10th time already, right, Don?
Well, it's good, Peter. People don't forget.
Probably this morning, right?
There's no excuse for people to forget my name, so that's what's the strength of having that name.
That's true. They never forget. I know.
Right.
Peter, we always
right.
like to start off by asking our guests where you're calling from this morning.
Calling from Midlothian, Illinois. Midlothian is a south suburban area of Chicago.
Great.
It's south suburbs of Chicago.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm heading out to Chicago in several weeks, actually, and Don and I were talking earlier on the show. It's such a beautiful city. I love Chicago.
You know, Chicago is, no offense to anybody else listening out there, but Chicago's about as good as a big city gets.
Absolutely. I would totally agree with that. Peter, what were you doing before joining Moran Industries? I had a chance to look at your bio. It's very impressive. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, sure. Thank you. I have been in the franchising business for quite some time.
Yes.
I've been with Moran Industries since 1999, and originally as the senior vice president, and most recently as the chief development officer. I started my career out in franchising way back in 1980. Hate to admit that and date myself, but back in 1980, I started out with Jiffy Lube International when the company was first formed. The company was actually formed in December of '79, and I started with them in March of 1980, and I was shipped out to Salt Lake City to run the very first company-owned Jiffy Lube in the United States.
Wow.
And the owner of the company sent me out there and said, this is a whole new industry, so you need to go out there and learn how to run these things. teach us how to run these things.
Yeah.
So I kind of became, in the beginning years, the the operational troubleshooter. They moved me all over the country, and I went from Salt Lake City to Sioux City, Iowa, to Memphis, Tennessee, to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and did that for a number of years, and initially in the first few years running company-owned stores, and then began a few years later on the franchise side, and spent my first 10 years of my career with Jiffy Lube International, and it was a great experience because it was such a brand new industry that was just forming, and such a fast-track experience, and we were growing so rapidly that, you got about 20 years experience in a 10-year period.
Absolutely.
So then I moved on to the glass industry, and I spent 10 years in the glass industry, both automotive glass and commercial and residential construction, and worked on the company-owned operations side. So through my career, I've had both a lot of franchising experience as well as a lot of line management experience on the with large company-owned operations. My tenure in the glass industry, I was with two different companies, VBP Aamco, where I was the vice president general manager of a company called Binswanger Glass out of Memphis, Tennessee, and Globe Glass and Mirror, which later was acquired by Safelite, which is the largest auto glass installer in the United States, actually in the world now.
That's great.
And then I joined Moran Industries.
What was it that attracted you to Moran, Peter? What did you like about Moran Industries at the time? The history?
What I liked about Moran Industries was, number one, I love the franchising business, and Moran was a solid franchisor, and they also had a tremendous amount of versatility. I felt like Moran Industries had great opportunity for growth, not only personal growth but also growth of the system, because they had done some things very intelligently. As an example, their growth was done through acquisition, and Dennis Moran, the founder of the company, had gone out and had acquired several strong regional players that were in the industry and that had a good presence in different parts of the country. And he acquired 4 different transmission repair companies in different parts of the country and put those all together under Moran Industries, and that allowed us to enter 4 different regions of the country very quickly. So the growth strategy that was used was very intelligent. And then after acquiring 4 different transmission companies, Dennis then acquired Milex Complete Auto Care. At the time, it was Milex Tune-Ups, Brakes, and Air Conditioning, which we later rebranded to Milex Complete Auto Care because we do so much more than what we did when we originally acquired the company. And then also acquired Altamir Toys for Your Car, which is in the automotive window tinting and accessory business. So that gave us one of the most well-rounded groups of companies in the automotive aftermarket.
You're trying to really cover all the different services to the auto industry. So.
That's correct.
It must have been pretty interesting, Peter, just getting back to your own personal backgrounds, seeing that growth with Jiffy Lube. Were you confident early on the first few years what Jiffy Lube was going to turn into?
No, I was not. That's kind of a funny question because I had my career goal was to be a college football coach.
Wow.
And I did coach college football for 2 years, 1 year at Cortland State University in New York and 1 year at Western Maryland College. And the founder of Jiffy Lube was the head football coach at Western Maryland College. He hired me as an assistant coach, and he was at the time in the middle of creating the Jiffy Lube concept, and asked me to do him a favor and go out to Utah for 2 months. And I said, fine, I'll go out for 2 months. Then he contacted me and wanted me to stay out there and stay with the company and give up my coaching career. And we argued about that for about 30, 45 days, just about every night, until he finally broke me down and got me to stay. So, no, my vision was not real good at that time. I wanted to coach college football.
It seems like
but fortunately, his vision was good, and it turned out to be a great experience for me.
Right. Yeah. It's funny how people's lives are shaped. You went in one direction, not looking to really do it, and then it becomes a career. But very impressed with your past experience. It seems like it was just a natural fit with Moran Industries.
Well, it was a natural fit. Having had many years of experience both on the franchise side and on the company-owned side, lends itself to really supporting and assisting franchisees in a meaningful way. Sometimes franchise companies don't have the direct experience in P&L management and running large company-owned operations. I had an operation that was $120 million in sales that I was responsible for. So with that company-owned experience, it gives you a whole other realm of experience to be able to use to assist your franchisees and support your franchisees in running their businesses and to know where they need the support.
Right. Now we know that Mr. Transmission, Milex, some of the older concepts within the Moran Industries concepts, over 40, 50 years old. But when did the company actually start franchising? Some of the concepts, Peter.
The company started company started franchising in 1990. Okay. However, if you go back to what I had said earlier, we acquired concepts that had already been franchising. Right. Okay. Moran Industries started franchising in 1990. Now, Mr. Transmission, for example, was formed in 1956 in Nashville and began franchising in the mid-'70s. So we acquired a company there that had already been in the franchising business. Right. So we began franchising as Moran Industries in 1990.
Yeah. How do you describe the Moran Industries franchise system to prospects and franchisees, Peter?
Well, there's really no other system in the automotive aftermarket that is as well-rounded as Moran Industries, and we have a great infrastructure in place. Franchising is all about systems. It's about, business systems that work, okay? And it's not always as all that specific to the widget that you're selling as it is to the systems that you provide the franchisee in order to run their business successfully, okay? And Moran Industries has the infrastructure in place with all the various support systems that a franchisee really needs to be effective in how they run their business. Keep in mind that a new franchisee coming into owning their first business is not used to having to be the person with all the answers in several different areas of the business world, So someone who opens up an independent business has to be the HR person, the operations person, the marketing person, the financial person. All those different aspects have to be covered, and all those different decisions have to be made. And with a system like Moran Industries, one of the great things is that our franchisees don't really have to be the experts in all those areas. They can pick up the phone any day of the week, and they can call, the marketing department, or the operations department, or the accounting department, and get support and answers for the decisions that they have to make on a daily basis. So that infrastructure, is critical to the success of new franchisees who haven't owned their own business before.
Yeah, you're right.
And it starts all the way back in the beginning. It starts all the way back in the beginning when they first sign those agreements with all the help that we give them in the startup phase. You have two different aspects of it. You've got the startup support where we're helping them with, site selection and lease negotiation and equipment purchases and all those types of things. And then you move into a different area of development once they open their doors with the ongoing, support that they receive.
Right, fantastic. You wrote that great article, Peter. It was called "Gaining an Edge with Vendor-Supplier Relations." I saved that one in my archives. It sounds like Moran Industries has strong relationships with their vendor partners, which is fantastic for your new franchisees and your current franchisees, just working with you guys. Did you want to talk a little bit about that and why it's important?
Sure. I appreciate you mentioning that article. Didn't know that you had read it, but I actually, when that article was published, I got a lot of phone calls, from people in the industry about that article.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of a fun article to write because it's something that that I guess you have to be as old as me to understand those experiences, but those vendor relationships are very important. My mentor, back years ago, I remember having dinner with him one night, and one of the things that he asked me a question. I said, "Geez, I'm not sure." And he said, what the answer to that is. And he said, "Well, you have to look at in running a franchise company, you have to look at what all your available resources are to help your franchisees." And he asked me to define what my resources were. And I didn't define it real well at that time when I was a young kid, But what I learned through that discussion early on was that you have a lot of different resources that available to you that you don't always look at, you don't always recognize, and you don't always use properly. And the relationships with your vendors can be tremendous resources in helping your franchisees. We don't sell product to our franchisees. We're not in the product business. We used to be in the product business, and we decided that for our business, at least, some people do that well, but for our business, we decided that it was a distraction, and what we really needed to focus our energy on was our core business, which was being a good franchisor. So we went back at that time and began really establishing strong vendor relationships, negotiating well on behalf of our franchisees to give them the savings so that their cost of goods would be lower than their competitors. Found in the process that, we had many vendors who were willing to do other things for us, who were willing to share ideas with us on advertising and marketing support. For example, we've got a couple of vendors who have very strong marketing departments, and they work closely with our marketing department to help put together ad campaigns for our franchisees. So, the vendor relationship can be much more than just buying product, So our role with our vendors is to negotiate both, purchases and services on behalf of our franchisees to give them the best deal possible out there.
Absolutely. And the franchisees appreciate that, which I guess, you have a stronger relationship between the franchisee and franchisor, because you guys are bringing the cost down. So fantastic.
When we sold, several years ago, when we sold our wholesale parts distributorship, we actually sold it to one of our vendors as part of the negotiations with bringing them on as a primary and approved vendor. And they really gave us a great deal. It'd surprise you, once we rolled that program out, as to how many long-term experienced franchisees called us and said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've never been able to buy this well. In the 20 years I've been in this business, I've never been able to purchase this well. You guys really did us a big favor." And we got a lot of those phone calls.
That must have been a great feeling for you too, Peter, to get those
It was.
That's fantastic. A question we were excited about.
Yeah, I was just going to mention real quick. I mean, you're talking about all the advantages that a franchisee has with Moran Industries. I think a real good selling point is with the number of concepts you have, just the co-branding options, Peter. I imagine a certain percentage of your franchisees might even start up a couple concepts at the same time, or an existing franchisee might add a concept since you have a few different services to the auto.
Well, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. If you didn't bring it up, I certainly was going to, because it is a great advantage. The automotive aftermarket has changed a lot. And if I can, go back and do just a real basic and quick history, you used to, 30 years ago, you'd drop your car off at the neighborhood gas station. You probably knew the mechanic. You'd leave them the keys, and the cars were so simple that they could do anything to your car. And then the industry, at the time, throughout the 80s, for the sake of convenience to the customer, what happened was the industry became very specialized. You had the quick lubes, the brake shops, the muffler shops, the transmission shops. Everything got specialized. Okay, and what that did, even though that was, everybody's marketing campaigns were, come to us for this service because we're the experts in this, in this area. In some ways that was good for the customer. In other ways it wasn't, because the driving customer lost relationships. In order to get their car worked on, everybody wants somebody that they can trust to work on their car, so that they know that they're getting, treated fairly. They're not getting gouged from a pricing standpoint and all those things that people concern themselves with. And what we did as an industry was we created a situation where a customer had to go to 4 to 6 different shops during the course of a year to get their car work done. And with Moran Industries, with our transmission repair business with Mr. Transmission and Milex Complete Auto Care that does virtually everything else to your car except for transmission work, and then also Altamir with our auto accessory business, we had 3 strong standalone concepts, each of them viable on their own. And what we did is we recognized when the cars were changing dramatically because of everything being computer controlled, the diagnostics all blended together, and we looked at the industry and we said, we have a better opportunity than almost anybody to create these co-branded models. And we were able to take standalone successful concepts, put them together under the same roof. For example, with a Mr. Transmission and a Milex co-branded franchise, that franchisee has basically the same overhead structure with both franchises as he does with one, but he now has 2 revenue streams, and he now has the ability to do almost anything to a customer's car other than body work. And so what we've created is the most complete automotive repair facility in the industry, and we've recreated a situation where now that customer doesn't have to go anywhere else. They don't have to go to 4 to 6 different shops. They can come to us and they can get everything done under one roof, and they can reestablish those relationships that they had 30 years ago.
Right, yeah. Big advantage.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What role has technology played in your business, Peter? I think it sounds like it's played a pretty big role.
Huge role, absolutely huge role, because the cars have changed so dramatically. You have some of these cars today that have 7 or 8 onboard computers on them.
Right.
Okay, and you used to get in the car, for example, in the transmission business. Somebody said they had a transmission problem. They left you the keys. You test drove the car, for a mile or 2. And you were able to determine from test driving it what was wrong with the car. You can't do that anymore. The automotive systems are so complex now, with everything being computer controlled, that you have to diagnose the cars with the proper computer equipment. You have to know the codes. You have to read, hook the computer up to the car, drive it while it's connected to the car, so that it reads the codes. Particularly if it's an intermittent problem, it becomes even more complex. Okay, and so what have we done from a technology standpoint to deal with the complexity of the cars? What we've done is, we've reevaluated over the years what diagnostic equipment our franchisees need to properly diagnose a car. And we've got state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment in the equipment package for the franchisees. We have a terrific technical software program that our franchisees use to, once they diagnose the car, the software program that we use allows them to find out exactly how to do the repair for what they've diagnosed to be the problem. And we go even above and beyond that. We have a technical department for our repair franchises that continues to do research in the industry, provides up-to-date service bulletins for the franchisees that we send out on a monthly basis or on an as-needed basis. If something comes up that we learn about, we'll send one out very quickly. In addition to that, we also man a technical hotline. So if our franchisee has a problem with a repair and they don't seem to be finding the right answer, they can call our technical hotline. They can talk to a master mechanic on that tech hotline, and he will talk them through the problem. He will help them find the answers, with the mission being to help the franchisee solve the problem, deliver the car to the customer, collect the revenues, and get the next revenue-paying job up on the list. Okay? So it's really, we look at our technical department as a productivity department for the franchisees. We want the customer to be serviced and satisfied as quickly as possible, and we want the franchisee to run a productive operation. So we provide that service to them, and our franchisees tell us that is a tremendous service that they couldn't do without.
Just tremendous tools, just everything a franchisee needs to be successful is what you guys have.
Well, the business systems that we have in place, for example, that I was just describing, actually allow, even though the cars are complex today, it allows someone with a desire to own their own business that doesn't have automotive experience to actually still enter the automotive aftermarket because of the business systems that we have in place. Right. You know, we have systems that a good businessman can come in and implement even if they're not an automotive guy.
Right. What about all these gadgets, Peter, that people are putting into their cars? Are the franchisees or is Moran Industries taking advantage of that as well? It's really overwhelming, the new technology with all these different accessories, the GPS system.
That's a fun part. That's a fun part of the business.
I imagine.
And yes, we do. Yeah, we do take advantage of that. Primarily through our Altamir Toys for Your Car franchise. That and Altamir deals in automotive window tinning, and also auto accessories. And on the accessory side, we have a full line of bolt-on accessories like, running boards and grill guards and things like that, as well as a tremendous amount of electronic accessories. And there are a lot of accessories in the electronic side of the business that deal in, obviously, auto security systems, remote starts, navigation systems, DVD and video systems. You'd be surprised at how many moms come in, with big SUVs and get, these, DVD and Game Boy systems put in the car to where, they got 3 kids and all 3 kids can be on a different screen at the same time,
Incredible.
So, but that's a fun part of the business because it's constantly changing. There's constantly new technology. There's new trends, new fads, and it's almost in a way like the apparel business. You have to stay on top of what the trends are, and know what the next hot thing is that's coming out because. Sometimes before they hit the market, you have customers calling your store asking, when you're going to get it. With the internet now and the ability to research all those different products, it's really kind of a fun and exciting side of the business.
Oh, absolutely, I would agree. How about the industry, Peter? It sounds like it's a pretty big industry. You could call it the automotive aftermarket industry. Are there any numbers as far as how dollar-wise?
Sure. The automotive aftermarket industry is over $300 billion.
Wow.
It's a huge industry. Yeah, huge industry, and it continues to have pretty dynamic growth. If you maybe a simpler number to talk about than $300 billion. Because I don't know how much that is. I don't know, I'm not sure how to relate to $300 billion. But what I can relate to is, we've got 300 million people in the United States, on the last census. 3 years ago, we had 216 million vehicles on the road. Right. And as of the end of last year, that increased in 3 years from 216 to 232 million.
Nice growth.
Now, when you consider the fact that with 300 million people, there's a lot of kids that don't drive.
Right.
232 million vehicles for 300 million people is pretty significant, and it's going to continue to go up. You figure we added 16 million vehicles in 3 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
What types of characteristics, Peter, do you look for in a franchisee? And does that maybe change a little bit with the way the current economy is? Maybe you may be looking for someone with a little more business ownership experience, or maybe that's changed a little bit for you. But talk about the characteristics you look for a little bit.
Sure. Some of the soft characteristics that I'll speak about, are obviously in business ownership. One of the most important things is, selecting franchisees that have, initiative, positive attitude, and self-starting ability. People who don't sit and wait for someone to tell them what to do. People who will follow the business system. You want people that are so there's and certainly the characteristics I just described are entrepreneurial characteristics. Okay, and there's a fine balance that you want because you want entrepreneurs that are self-starters, that are going to take action. Okay, but those entrepreneurs also need to understand that they need to work within the framework of a system. Okay, so that's very important. And then obviously, the core value side of it is extremely important. We want somebody who has a strong work ethic, who exhibits integrity and ethics. They're taking care of, in essence, our customers. It's our brand name, so we want people with integrity and ethics promoting our brand name, through their businesses. Sales skills are always important, and people skills are extremely important. We have a set of core values that we established, with our franchisees a number of years ago, and we use the word drive. And what drive stands for, and what we continue to tell both our employees and our franchisees, is that all of our interaction on a day-to-day basis needs to always go back to the core values of drive. And drive stands for dedication, respect, integrity, vision, and enthusiasm. We feel like if we have done a good job from a leadership standpoint in having our franchisees and our employees understand and buy into the drive concept, then we're going to take great care of our customers out in the marketplace.
I like that, Peter. No, it's just clever. What it stands for, drive, that's excellent. What is a typical day like for Moran Industries franchisees, Peter? Is there a typical day?
Probably no day is typical. To be honest with you, in small business ownership, you don't have many typical days.
That's true.
But to give you a perfectly honest answer, the franchisees, but quite frankly, typical day is our franchisees are not typically hands-on working on cars. Some do. We have some franchisees who have been in the system a while, and that was their background, and that's what they may gravitate to. But for the most part, our franchisees work on their business, versus in their business, which means that they're networking, they're working on advertising and marketing their business, they're working on business-to-business sales, they're working on, leading their team, managing, productivity and managing their team and keeping their team motivated. And a big part of success with our franchisees is being involved in the community, is having some role in the community to where you not only promote your business, but you also give back. We have a lot of franchisees who do an awful lot with youth sports teams. A lot of Mr. Transmission and Milex baseball and football teams out there across the country.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. What's the training like for your new franchisees, Peter?
Training is one of our strong suits. Having been in business since 1956, training is extremely important for franchisees, both both new franchisees and on an ongoing basis. And we have different training programs that have a lot of the same, core systems in place. But we do very extensive training. We have a 2-week classroom training session for our automotive repair brands that consists of 1 week being a what we call a center manager school, which is how to run the day-to-day operations of the business, and then our owner-operator school, which deals in all the back-end aspect of the business. How do you read your P&Ls? How do you take action if your P&Ls don't come in the way you want them to this month? If you have costs that are out of control, if you have this, productivity problem, how do you react to that? How do you advertise and market your business? How do you deal with recruiting and the HR issues that you're going to encounter? So we teach both the front end of the business extensively and the back end of the business extensively. And then we also have a component of field training that's included in that as well. So a new franchisee is going to get 2 weeks of classroom training, a week of front end, a week of back end, and then they're also going to get 3 to 5 days of field training once their store opens, where we send an operations person out and work with them in the beginning of their new operation. On the SmartView Window Solutions business, which is non-automotive, by the way, I hadn't mentioned that much, but SmartView is a residential and commercial window tinting business, and that has a 10-day training program for all franchisees that covers, all similar aspects of what I just described.
That's great. Well, what are Moran Industries' plans for the future, Peter? I imagine to keep growing and...
Yes, we definitely have plans to to continue to grow. Matter of fact, I might mention that one of the publications just came out, one of the IFA publications that had the top 200 up and coming franchises, and we were ranked in the in the top 200, which is pretty good given the fact that there are over 3,000 franchise companies out there in the United States today. So we were in the top 200 of up-and-coming franchise systems. Our plans right now, we have approximately 200 locations, and over the next 5 to 6 years, we intend to hopefully bring that up to about 500 locations with a combination of our brands.
That's fantastic. We have about 30 seconds, Peter. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information on Moran Industries? Is there a website or a phone number? Or?
Our phone number is 800 377 9247.
Okay.
And our website is moranindustries.com.
Yeah, which is a great website, by the way. Don and I were on the website this morning, and it's just very informative. There's a lot of great information on there as well.
Well, we redid the website recently, and when somebody goes to moranindustries.com, there's some great information on there, including some very informative videos that really help people understand our concepts.
That's some nice quotes from some franchisees who've been successful.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. There are about 6 different video clips of franchisees talking about their experience with the business.
Wow, that's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Peter. You've been a fantastic guest, and Don and I would like to have you back on a future show in 2009.
I would love to be back. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you guys, and I really appreciate being on, and would love to do it again.
Thanks, Peter. You have a great day today.
Take care.
Thanks.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Great show, huh, Don?
Yeah, pretty impressive. Obviously, he was very proud of being one of the top 200 up-and-coming franchises.
Oh, absolutely. Again, out of 3,000, that's
right.
That's fantastic. It's just such a huge industry. And just one of the new questions that we've been asking on the show is the role of technology.
Right.
Just researching Moran. It's just there's so much opportunity there. And again, you don't have to have a background in the automotive industry to get into something like this as well. So it's just.
Well,
he
said it.
Passion.
Yeah. You know, their franchisees are working on the business, not in the business.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we've been talking about that for such a long time now. So it was a great show. You know, I'd love to have him back in 2009 and just watch Moran continue to grow. So for our listeners, thanks for listening. Go to
Franchise Interviews. For over 4 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Check out our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the entrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, my co-host, Don Johnson, and if you've ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. As we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Don LaRose, who is the Vice President of Franchise Development for Express Oil Change and Service Center. And Express Oil Change and Service Center is a recognized leader in the quick lube and automotive service industry and is the largest independent quick lube chain in the Southeast with both corporate and franchise-owned locations. Hey, Don, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Don. Don, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and I know, Don, you wanted to say hi to Don.
Thanks for coming on, Don. We appreciate it. Hopefully Marty won't get you and I confused.
I know. I was just thinking about that. Don, we always like to start off asking our guests where you're calling from this morning.
From Birmingham, Alabama, with a Darso blue.
Nice, yeah. Nice. Is it cooling off a bit down there?
A little bit, yeah. It's down in the upper 70s.
Okay, good. And Don, what were you doing before joining Express Oil Change and Service Center franchise opportunity?
I was running a startup Cajun restaurant franchise in Kentucky for a couple of years. Before that, I was with Dunkin' brands, Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins for about 9 years, mostly on the franchise sales side of things, and was with Hallmark Cards for 12 years before that.
That's great.
Oh, great background, Don.
Yes.
That's incredible. Tell us a little bit about the history of Express Oil and when you began franchising.
Well, the brand was founded in 1979 by Jim Lunsford here in Birmingham, Alabama. And after about a couple of 2 decades, he started franchising just 5 years later. And after only about 20 years, he had about 50 stores open, mostly in Alabama, and really dominated the state to a large extent. And then in 1987, Ricky Brooks and his partner Joe Watson became Express Oil Change franchisees. Ricky went on to become the CEO of the company. He and Joe Watson bought the brand from Jim Lunsford in 1996. And at that time, they were the largest franchisees with 14 stores. And Ricky Brooks is still the CEO today.
Great.
Wow. Interesting.
I should mention that the brand really has developed is really in about 10 states across the South. We have over 170 stores, and 68 of which we own and operate ourselves.
That's great.
How do you, Don, how do you describe the Express Oil Change and Service Center franchise system to potential franchisees?
Well, we have a lot of unique characteristics about our business that really differentiate us from the rest of the quick lube industry. We offer a 10-minute full-service drive-through oil change, where you come in, you stay in your car, which is ideal if you're a mother with a couple of small kids strapped in car seats in the back. It's a hassle to get it pull in, and some places you have to get out of the car and you go sit in a little waiting room. With us, you don't do that. You stay right in your car. We do a 20-point courtesy vehicle inspection, top off the fluids, and so on. But that's one of the things that makes us unique. Is again, it's very convenient and very fast. But the second thing is that we also do mechanical work. So as you could, without appointment. So you come in for an oil change, and maybe your brakes are squeaking, your air conditioning isn't working right, or you want your tires rotated, and so on. We do that sort of work. Through our ASE certified mechanics. and which again most of the quick lube industry doesn't do that sort of thing. They really just change oil and maybe change your windshield wipers or something like that. So that gives us a major advantage in the business, and again differentiates us from kind of the rest of the quick lube industry.
Yeah, and I think those are two big selling points. People don't want to have to go to a few different places. Just the franchise we had on last week, the show, Don, a combined movie theater and a restaurant. You kind of just go to one place. People love convenience.
One-stop shopping, yeah.
And also providing the oil change quickly like that. And I mean, I have twins 5 years old. It is a hassle getting them in and out of the car.
Absolutely.
So I love that you can just stay right in the car and you're in and out. You don't have to worry. It's going to be a great job.
Yeah, people are in a hurry, and a lot of times they're going out. It's lunchtime to get the oil change. They don't want to burn up the whole lunchtime just getting the oil change because they may have two other stops. So with us, again, over 75% of the changes take place in under 11 minutes.
Yeah, it is amazing, Don. Yeah, I'm in that situation too. I have a little baby boy now, and I can relate to, Don's situation of taking the kids out of the car, and I go to an express lube place, and I can tell you it's hardly anything but express, So I mean, I love that ability to be able to stay in the car and truly get it done in 10 minutes because I think there's a lot of and I won't say any other names of your competitors, but places out there that call themselves express, and it's not.
Right. Well, another thing that makes us unique, I would say, and helps describe the system, kind of to the point of your question also, is that we focus very much on building car counts, getting the customer by delivering great service and getting the customer to come back. And a big part of that is by building a sense of trust with the customer. We don't push products on people they don't need. We're not pushing air filters and things. That we've all had that experience, right? You go in and
that was something I wanted to add too. Is every time I seem to go, always pushing the air filter and everything else. So it costs a fortune.
Well, exactly right. And so we charge it. We have a premium service and we charge a fair price for it. But we're very careful to not oversell anything. We recommend things based on the mileage of the car and the manufacturer's recommendations and so on for that particular vehicle. But we never push anything. And in fact, I've seen our guys in the stores actually talking customers out of doing things because they don't really need it, which is really unusual.
And that trust is really the key. Yeah, you want the quick service and being reliable, but that trust in this type of industry, when most people don't know anything about cars and oil filters and so forth, and the same thing's happened to me. This situation, it's so uncomfortable. You think you're spending, $20 or whatever it is, and the next thing you know, you're spending double that. So that trust is key, and I guess that's the key to having a repeat customer.
Absolutely.
Who's happy. Yeah.
That's interesting. One of the questions we've been asking on the show recently, Don, is how has technology played a role in your franchise?
That's a great question, and for us it has. Again, because we're operators with 68 of our own stores, we know, we really clearly understand what the needs of the business are. Again, just operate it successfully ourselves. And so we created a proprietary software management system that we call Express Track. And it really allows the franchisees or our company stores to easily track every facet of the business and our customers. So when you come in, you have a customer number, and that little sticker that goes on your windshield, first thing we do is we say hello, we peel that off, and we punch your number into our system, and we know when you came back last, what kind of service was done to your car in the past, what kind of oil you prefer, if there's a certain kind of oil that you have a preference for, and it tells us everything about the guys working in the stores, how many cars they worked on, if their customers are returning or not, so we can keep track of who's really delivering good service and not. It's a phenomenal system, and again, it's all we designed it ourselves.
Great. And any numbers on the industry, Don, as far as how big? I mean, you're in a pretty big industry, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. What's interesting is that as I mentioned earlier, since we do mechanical work, we really go beyond just the quick oil change industry. We really see ourselves in the overall aftermarket, what they call the automotive aftermarket industry. Right. And with that, it's a $281 billion market, and it's growing. As the population out there in the U.S. grows, so do the number of cars on the road. And for us, an interesting piece of it is that the average age of the cars on the road continues to get older and older, maybe because of the price of cars or whatever the reason. Yeah. But it's just in 2008, the average age of cars crossed the 10-year-old mark for the first time.
Yeah.
And so that's good for us because we can, the more miles on a car, the more mechanical work they need, and our business grows along with that.
Exactly. Is it still, Don, that you have to get an oil change after a certain amount of miles? With cars maybe being built a little better these days, you don't have to get oil changes as much, or that's not the case?
Yeah, no, that's not the case. Still, most of the manufacturers recommend getting your oil changed every 3,000 miles. Mm-hmm. And I know that some folks, will stretch that to 4,000 or 5,000, but 3,000 is generally the recommendation. But there are certain kinds of oils, really high-grade synthetic oils, that can stretch that time. Now, they're more expensive, quite a bit more expensive in some cases, but they help protect the engine more so, and you can actually, do the changes less frequently.
What's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you, Don, since joining Express Oil Change and Service? You mentioned your background, Duncan Brand's hallmark. What's something that's been interesting, since you've been at Express?
Well, one of the things that really dazzled me was when I first came on board to get familiar with the business and the brand. They asked me to go out, and spend some time looking at stores and kind of was watching and learning and observing and so on. And one of the things that really amazed me was that commitment to delivering great service. It's not just talk here. It starts with Ricky Brooks, the CEO, and it gets right down. I've never seen a brand that is able to take what the CEO envisions and wants as a strategy and have it actually happen in the store to the customer to the degree that this brand does. And as an example, as I was in one of the stores watching, just observing, one of the managers, as a car drove onto the lot, one of the managers jogged out to meet the car out on the lot as it came on, talked to the customer, took the little sticker off, and then, escorted them into the garage, and then 3 guys worked on the car so they could get it out in 10 minutes. And you don't see that level of service really anywhere anymore. It reminded me of that scene from Back to the Future, where the car pulls in and 3 guys are, right. It's kind of a throwback almost, and but customers love it, and it feeds into our success.
I also like the way, Don, that you guys can probably easily open several hundred of these a year. I mean, I like how you're just maintaining a nice slow growth, maybe opening 10 to 15 new centers this year, and doing it correctly and not getting the whole company out of control and just putting them all over the place. I mean, that seems like it's a pretty good philosophy from up top.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, since Ricky, as CEO, came from a background of a franchisee, and we are very operationally focused, and so the focus is much more so on delivering a great experience to the customer from that core operational point of view, rather than marketing or rather than how many franchises can we sell this year. So the focus is really on running them right, delivering a great experience, and the franchising piece of it is important. And we are and we're going to grow probably faster in the future years, but it's going to be a very controlled growth. To your point.
Would you classify your business in this service as recession resistant?
Absolutely. We're running a couple, almost 3% ahead of last year, and last year was a record year for us as a company. And it's interesting, in June, month of June, 30 of our 68 company stores had all-time record high sales months.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is incredible. And again, people are going to be keeping their cars longer because of the recession, so that may feed into more mechanical work. But the oil change business is solid as well. And again, we're fortunate that what's interesting is people tend to, when they have a newer car, they tend to get the oil change more frequently, and that helps us because we have the oil change business. And then when as the car gets older, it needs more mechanical work, and that benefits us as well.
Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you again next week with another edition of Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.